Welcome back to our channel, Soap Opera Aficionados. Today is a spectacular day to dive deep into the scintillating drama unfolding on our screens. Grab your favorite beverage, settle into your most comfortable chair, and prepare yourselves for an exclusive, scene-by-scene breakdown of the latest jaw-dropping developments. Let us jump right into the explosive chaos that has everyone talking. Before we dissect the monumental fallout from the latest Beyond the Gates clip, we must ask ourselves these short, thought-provoking questions to pique your curiosity. Who is lying? What secret is about to be revealed? Which character might betray their loved one in the next episode? The catalyst for this unprecedented emotional warfare begins with a moment of quiet, devastating intimacy. The ambient lighting cast long, deceptive shadows as Ted stood frozen in the doorway, his eyes locking onto a scene that would forever alter the trajectory of his life. There, in a hushed and seemingly private enclave, stood Carlton and Nicole. The physical proximity between them, the soft cadence of their whispered exchange, and the undeniable electricity crackling in the air served as a brutal trigger for Ted's deeply rooted insecurities. Every stolen glance, every lingering touch, felt like a deliberate, agonizing dagger to his heart. The silence of his observation was deafening, masking the violent storm of emotions that was rapidly destroying his rational mind. To truly understand the magnitude of Ted's reaction, we must delve deep into the psychological labyrinth of his possessiveness and unrequited desires. Ted has long harbored an intense, almost suffocating attachment to Nicole, viewing any external connection she makes as a direct threat to his own emotional survival. Witnessing Carlton, a man he once considered a steadfast ally and friend, sharing this clandestine moment with Nicole, was the ultimate betrayal. A visceral, all-consuming jealousy erupted within his chest, a toxic inferno fueled by perceived treachery and the agonizing realization that he was being sidelined. The betrayal he felt was absolute, blinding him to any logical explanation and transforming his sorrow into a blinding, uncontrollable rage. Driven by this blinding fury, Ted refused to let the moment pass in silence. He stormed into the public arena, his demeanor shifting from a heartbroken observer to an aggressive predator seeking vengeance. The confrontation was not a private affair. It was a loud, chaotic, and deeply humiliating public spectacle. Ted confronted Carlton with a ferocity that left bystanders gasping in horror. The air grew thick with tension as Ted hurled accusations, his voice booming with the raw, unfiltered agony of a man who felt entirely discarded. He demanded answers, but his tone made it abundantly clear that no explanation would ever suffice to quench the fire of his jealousy. This public showdown was a calculated move to humiliate Carlton, to tear down the facade of their friendship, and to force Nicole to witness the destructive power of her actions, regardless of the immense collateral damage. The verbal sparring rapidly escalated into a fiery physical clash that shattered the boundaries of decorum. Words were no longer enough to express the depth of Ted's resentment. The confrontation turned physical, a chaotic blur of shoving, shouting, and raw aggression that required the intervention of shocked onlookers. Every harsh word exchanged was a nail in the coffin of their shared history. Carlton, initially trying to defuse the situation, was forced to defend himself against Ted's relentless onslaught. The physical altercation was a tragic manifestation of their broken bond, a desperate, ugly struggle that laid bare the toxic undercurrents of their relationship. The aftermath of this brutal altercation is a landscape of emotional ruin. The friendship between Ted and Carlton, once a pillar of stability in their turbulent lives, has been irreparably fractured. There is no coming back from the venomous insults and the physical violence that transpired. The trust has been entirely eradicated, replaced by a lingering, toxic resentment that will undoubtedly fuel future conflicts. For the viewers, witnessing the death of this brotherhood is a poignant reminder of how quickly jealousy and perceived betrayal can dismantle years of loyalty. Ted and Carlton are now firmly entrenched as bitter adversaries, their shared history serving only as a painful reminder of what they have lost. As if the violent dissolution of Ted and Carlton's friendship were not enough drama for one narrative arc, the storyline takes another monumental twist with Nicole's highly anticipated public declaration. In a moment that silenced the room and stopped hearts, Nicole publicly chose Kial. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as she made her announcement, her voice echoing with a mixture of determination and underlying apprehension. Choosing Kial in such a public forum was a definitive statement, a line drawn in the sand that was meant to put an end to the romantic ambiguity that had plagued her life. The shock of the crowd was palpable, a collective intake of breath as the ramifications of her choice settled over the room. This was not a quiet, private decision. It was a broadcasted commitment that fundamentally shifted the romantic alliances. But we must critically analyze Nicole's choice of Kial. Is this a decision born of profound, undeniable love, or is it a calculated move to seek safety amidst the emotional chaos surrounding Ted and Carlton? Kyle represents a different path for Nicole, perhaps one that feels less fraught with the toxic masculinity and explosive jealousy that Ted just displayed. However, the sheer abruptness of her public declaration raises questions about her true motivations. Is she trying to convince the world, or is she desperately trying to convince herself? The dynamic between Nicole and Kial will now be under a microscopic lens, with every interaction scrutinized for signs of genuine affection or lingering doubt. Her choice has set a new narrative in motion, but the ghosts of her past connections with Carlton and Ted will undoubtedly continue to haunt her new relationship. While Ted reacted to his heartbreak with explosive violence, Carlton's response to Nicole's public rejection was a masterclass in silent suffering and suppressed agony. Watching the woman he deeply cared for publicly align herself with Kial was a devastating blow to Carlton's pride and his heart. Yet, instead of lashing out in the moment, Carlton maintained a stoic facade, swallowing his profound disappointment as the public spectacle unfolded. But beneath that calm exterior, a storm of heartbreak and indignation was brewing. Carlton is not a man who accepts defeat without understanding the reasons behind it. The public humiliation of being passed over ignited a fierce resolve within him. He refused to let the narrative end on Nicole's terms without getting the closure and the truth he felt he inherently deserved, paving the way for a major confrontation. Refusing to be a passive victim of Nicole's romantic whims, Carlton demanded a private meeting with her. The setting for this confrontation was starkly different from the public chaos of the earlier events. It was quiet, intimate, and suffocatingly tense. As they stood face to face, the air was heavy with unspoken regrets and lingering affection. Carlton stripped away his stoic armor, allowing his raw disappointment and profound heartbreak to take center stage. He articulated the depth of his pain with a quiet intensity that was far more devastating than Ted's loud, violent outburst. He looked into Nicole's eyes, searching for a flicker of remorse or understanding, as he laid his emotional cards on the table. This was a man bearing his soul, exposing his vulnerabilities, and demanding accountability from the woman who had effortlessly shattered his hopes. The crux of Carlton's confrontation hinged on a powerful declaration of self-worth. With a voice trembling with both sorrow and unwavering resolve, he looked Nicole dead in the eye and delivered a definitive ultimatum. He would never, under any circumstances, be her backup option. This statement was a profound reclamation of his dignity. Carlton recognized that Nicole's indecision and her ultimate choice of Kial had reduced him to a secondary consideration, a safety net waiting in the wings. By explicitly rejecting this role, Carlton established a firm boundary. He made it abundantly clear that his love and devotion were not to be trifled with or kept on reserve. This powerful assertion of self-respect shifted the power dynamic of their interaction, transforming Carlton from a heartbroken, rejected suitor into a man demanding the respect he inherently deserved. But Carlton did not stop at declaring his boundaries. He pushed Nicole into an uncomfortable psychological corner by asking the most piercing, devastating question of all. Did she ever truly consider his feelings? This inquiry cut through all of Nicole's defenses and excuses. It forced her to confront the collateral damage of her romantic indecision. Carlton demanded to know if his emotions were ever a genuine factor in her internal calculus, or if he was merely a pawn in her journey to find herself. The weight of this question hung in the air, creating an agonizing silence. It was a demand for radical honesty, a plea for validation that his feelings were real and acknowledged, even if they were ultimately unrequited. By asking this, Carlton stripped away Nicole's ability to hide behind platitudes, forcing her to look at the wreckage she had caused. Faced with Carlton's raw vulnerability and his uncompromising demand for the truth, Nicole was thrust into a profound internal crisis. The facade of certainty she had projected during her public declaration for Kyle began to crumble under the weight of Carlton's scrutiny. She was put in an incredibly difficult position, unable to escape the reality of the pain she had inflicted on a man who genuinely cared for her. Carlton's confrontation forced Nicole to look inward, to bypass her superficial justifications and face her true, unvarnished feelings. Does she harbor a secret, lingering love for Carlton that she was too afraid to explore? Is her relationship with Kial built on a foundation of genuine passion, or is it a defensive mechanism designed to protect her from the intense, complicated emotions she feels for Carlton? Her internal turmoil will only escalate. As the dust settles on this explosive sequence of events, the landscape is forever altered. Ted's violent jealousy has destroyed his brotherhood with Carlton, leaving a trail of bitterness that will taint every future interaction. Nicole's public choice of Kial has set a new romantic trajectory, but Carlton's devastating private confrontation has planted seeds of doubt that threaten to uproot her newfound stability. We are left to ponder the thought-provoking questions we posed at the beginning. Who is lying to themselves about their true desires? What secret regrets are about to be revealed as the consequences of these choices manifest? And which character might betray their current loved one in the next episode as the undeniable pull of unresolved feelings proves too strong to resist? The stage is set for a monumental emotional reckoning, and we will be watching,